One of the simplest ways to save some money at the grocery store is to look for a large cut of meat that is on sale and then just cook it low and slow. You can split up the leftovers into containers and then toss it in the fridge or freezer. And that's exactly what I did with a boneless pork shoulder this weekend. It was $14.71 for like a massive pork shoulder. I was like, let's just cook it low and slow and split up the ingredients. I've talked about some of these strategies on the main channel with the braising framework and why I cook frozen meat videos. And today, now that I have this meat ready to go, I'm just gonna make a very simple lunch. Okay, so this is my fridge ration for the week, and then what I did is just froze these here. And like I said, I happen to smoke this pork shoulder, but you could do Carnitas style, which I've shown a video on. You could also braise it in the oven, really whatever you want to do. I mean, it's gonna work great. And then what I like to do is just get these like nice and, put it in a small one of these, and then I'm gonna put a piece of parchment paper in between these guys, and then I'll put them in one bag and then just toss it back into the freezer. You could obviously use this, like if you had a whole family to feed, that'd probably be a good strategy to use, just use this up all throughout the week. But I kind of get bored of eating, I don't want to eat pork for like 5 days straight. So I'm gonna toss this in the freezer, then I can use it as I want to, just depending on what mood I'm in. Let's see if I can get this in here. Barely fits. Almost need a slightly bigger bag. All right, barely fits in there. Probably should have grabbed a slightly bigger bag. And then what I'm gonna do for my quick little meal here is just use up some ingredients. Like this is I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Like this is a quick lunch. There's nothing really special about this recipe. I have some tortillas in the fridge. I've got like a little tiny hunk of cheese that I need to use up, so I'm doing that. And then what I did is I just salted this pork. I didn't add any rubs or anything. I would rather, if I'm using this approach, I would rather keep it a little bit on the plain side when it comes to spices, because I'm gonna add spices while I cook it. Okay, so like I said, very unfancy meal, that we're gonna make right here. So I've got a little hunk of some leftover cheese. I've got some of these are corn and flour tortilla mix. So I'm gonna do a little cheese quesadilla, pork and cheese, and I'm gonna make a little dipping sauce with this salsa verde, which is on the spicier side, which I like. And then to get a little more protein, we're gonna make a little creamy version. Instead of sour cream, you could use sour cream if you wanted. But yeah, I mean, hopefully this channel is starting to show you that everything you make doesn't have to be like this masterpiece. Why we cook in the first place is just to feed ourselves. So if you're only ever going to the grocery store and you have this mega list because you're like, I want to make 10 recipes, you're probably going to end up spending a lot of money at the grocery store compared to when I bought this. I wasn't planning on buying pork shoulder. It was just I was in the meat section and I saw it. I was like, that's a pretty good deal. And I was like, I haven't had any pork in a while, so let's just bring it home. And I don't even, there wasn't a big, I think I bought that and a couple other things. It was I spent $30 on groceries. And then now I've got this in the fridge. I've got some in the freezer that I can use for, who knows, maybe we'll make some more Cookwell videos eventually with the frozen stuff. So I've got my cheddar cheese here. This is just gonna render down. There's a good bit of fat on that pork. So I think all I wanna add is just a little bit of paprika. So this is this paprika does have a touch bit of, a little bit more kick than most paprikas. But I think that'll pair well with the smokiness that's already in there from, it being on the smoker. And then we've got our cheese. And we're just gonna make a very simple little dipping sauce rather than kind of putting the salsa right on it. I like making a little dipping sauce. And then we're gonna use 2 tortillas. I'm gonna add a splash of water to this just so it heats up a little quicker. And then that water will evaporate off and the fat will start to render, but just gonna help it cook a little bit faster. Okay, so for the dipping sauce, gonna do a little bit of this, this is a tomatilla salsa. And then for a little bit of creaminess, I'm gonna use some of this, use the back of the fork here. Just a little bit of sour cream, just for a little bit of that creaminess. And then I'm gonna carefully bring this together. Try to anyway. So you can see all that water evaporating off. And then that'll start to get a little crispy layer on the bottom. And I think I'm just gonna kind of let it crisp on one side. Then we'll go ahead and make our little quesadillas here. Should have grabbed a bigger bowl. That's good. We got a little dipping sauce there. Got our pork, nice little crispy edges on it a little bit. Man, that's good. Okay, so I'm just gonna pop that there for a sec. And then how I like to make my quesadillas is like, I just like to do a little half. I don't know why, rather than trying to make these full. So I'm gonna put some cheddar down, use half of this pork on one side, and then I'll fold it over. So I'm gonna let that cheese just start to melt a little bit, and I can get the process started on this one. And then put our pork here. A little snack for the chef. All right, give this a fold over. And I'm going to put these both back on in a second. Man, it's going to be good. Also, these tortillas, like I said, they're a mix between corn and flour. And it is a pretty nice mix. So it's texture-wise, it is kind of, I would say, closer to flour. But then you get this nice kind of corny aroma from the tortillas. So if you ever happen to see these at your grocery store, I think they're worth picking up. It's a good kind of flavor and texture difference that is like it is a nice combination of the two. Okay, so folding that guy over. These things just perfectly fit in here. And then we'll let those crisp up. Get everything nice and melty. While I can do this, I've got some I only have pretty minimal dishes here, just really the cheese grater. The cheese grater and a fork, and then the two little pans that I used to freeze the pork. Do not have the sink cam up today, but also I feel like cheese graters can be a little annoying to clean sometimes. A lot of times I end up just throwing it in the dishwasher. But as always, a good example of like being able to take those little moments for you and just clean up some stuff. Okay, nice, looking nice and crispy. Hopefully you can see that. Again, just cleaning up some splatters. And yeah, I mean, kind of just waiting. I mean, there's not really much to do here, just quick little lunch. Then I'm gonna get back to some other work. But I was like, yeah, I might as well film this. I wasn't even planning on filming any of this. And then I was just like, well, you know, I want to be in the habit of just like, I'd rather show you guys stuff that maybe is not perfectly polished or like just, yeah, I'm just cooking in the kitchen, had some, you know, pork that I smoked yesterday. It's just like, you know, I feel like quick little videos like this can be helpful, whether, I mean, I don't expect all of you to have pork, but you could do this with rotisserie chicken. If you had braised chuck roast, you could do that. If you have leftover meat of any kind, honestly, like this is just some basic little idea, and like it's up to you to connect the dots. Like we'll see. Okay, I think these are probably crisped up enough. Yeah, that's looking nice. Yeah, these look good. All right. And then you guys let me know, but I've gotten in this, I like doing like, instead of little triangles, if I'm using it for a dipping sauce, I like almost just doing these little cuts straight across. And oh my, yeah, I don't know, they're quesadilla fingers, whatever you want to call them. Just a little bit better for like, I don't know, for kind of dipping purposes. And yeah, hopefully you can see like nice and cheesy, like a nice amount of cheese, but like a good bit of pork in there, nice and crispy, a little fatty, and it's gonna be perfect for this little dipping sauce right here. So see if I can get a close up for you. This is exactly what I look for in like a quick little lunch. Obviously, smokiness from the pork is great. You get the cheesiness, the crispiness, the little spice from both the salsa and that little bit of aroma from the paprika is really nice. And man, just a great little lunch. Okay, so that's gonna wrap it up for me in this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, learned a little something. You know, quick little basic lunch, nothing special here, but that's gonna wrap it up for me in this one. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace, y'all.